You might be wondering in the previous examples, what is the difference between put and post because they look quite similar. We generally use post requests to create items on a server and you get a 201 response, and you use put to update items, but that's not always the case. You can also use put to also create items on the server. So what is the difference? The difference lies in how a server interprets these responses. In the case of post, the server first checks if the entity already exists when you try to do a create request. If the entity does not exist, then it creates it and sends a 201 response. However, if the entity exists in case of post, you cannot create the same entity again, so it gives you a 400, which is bad request response. In the case of put, this is slightly different. The server once again checks if the entity does not exist, and if it doesn't exist, it basically just creates and you return a 200 response, which is a quite important thing to note here. But in the other case, if the entity does exist, the difference is that it just updates or recreates the item and sends the same 200 response. What's important to note here is that for every request of put, whether the entity exists or does not exist, you get the same response, which is 200. So multiple create requests in the case of put give the same response. And this kind of a property is called idempotence. It's a very important term used in HTTP. Some requests have idempotence, which means multiple requests return the same response. For example, get. If the entity exists, multiple gets give you the same value. If the entity doesn't exist, multiple gets give you the same 404 not found value. And some requests are not idempotent. So post, for example, you get a negative response after the first request, and hence it's not idempotent. But in put, you get the exact same positive response in each case, and hence put is idempotent. And that's the difference between the two requests.